In the first two, we covered, in general terms, we covered the concept of the acceptance of God's yoke, which is the essence and the basis of Judaism. Then we discuss the various reasons why people do not accept the truth, and most of why people don't tell the truth. Question of, on the one part, fear, or all kinds of fears, also prestige and social status, or even worse, or wanting to be liked and doing something because people are nice people and therefore I want to tell them that isn't the right thing. And most of all, because of the clash of cultures, the cultural clash of the Jew who is born in a foreign culture must of necessity bring upon himself and into himself the cultural habits and the cultural concepts of that culture, that society. And when those cultures clash, Torah culture and Western culture, or Eastern culture, or Northern culture, no matter what, when those clash, then you have a problem. Then what you have is a schizophrenic Jew. A schizophrenic Jew in terms of concept, conceptually schizophrenic Jew, which is the greatest problem facing us in our times. That is the thing that most perverts truth. The inability, because of the almost natural tendency, it's become natural to us to assume that certain concepts are true, because that's what we learned, taught, and that was in the very, very air that we breathed in the foreign culture. It's almost impossible, except with a tremendous effort, to uproot that and accept Torah concepts which are, in essence, opposite. Now, tonight, let's go into the Torah concept of a Jew, of the Jewish people. Not what is a Jew, who is a Jew. That's given in the lectures for that. That's a halacha. The Jewish people per se. What is the Jewish people in terms of Torah concepts? First of all, let me start off by saying that the concept of nationalism, secular nationalism, per se, is at best an absurd concept, and at worst, a dangerous concept. For me to have a separate country called Sweden and a separate country called Finland, with separate flags and separate parliaments and separate, is worse than absurd. Worse than absurd. Why should they be different? Why should there be boundaries? Why should there be wars between them? So secular nationalism per se, not only is it tribalistic and provincial, it's dangerous. People go to wars because of different backgrounds, which is terrible. Indeed, the Jew, the secular Jew that gets up and says, I'm proud of being a Jew. It's nice to hear him say that. But essentially, he's a racist. Essentially, he's a racist. Why in the world should he be proud of being a Jew and not proud of being a human being? That's the real point. When the High Court banned Kahane, there were 5 people sitting there. 5 racists. They didn't know why they were Jewish. They were talking about the Jewish state, Jewish. Racism. The only non-racist reason for being a Jew and for getting up and saying, I'm a Jew, because the moment that you say, I'm a Jew, you have set up a barrier between yourself and non-Jews. The minute you say, I'm a Jew, and you are not a Jew, so I'm a Jew, and you're not a Jew, see, so we're already there. The only logical reason, if we have something that no one else has, that's a reason to say I'm proud of being a Jew, because I have something that you don't have. Now, what is it that Jews have and that no one else has? That's a question that has to be asked. What does the Jew have that the Germans don't have, or the French don't have? Certainly, there is no racial thing in Judaism. Our blood is certainly not different than anybody else's blood. Certainly, a religion which takes in converts can never speak of anything being pure. That's absurd. We have Jews of unbelievably different ethnic backgrounds. We have Jews of every possible color. But that's certainly not what makes us special and different. Certainly not that wanted Jewish head. Everybody always speaks about the Jewish head. All the anti-racists get a little pleasure at this Yiddishkeit. What Yiddishkeit? What Jewish head? If I had $1 for every dumb Jew that I met, I might not be rich, but I'd be comfortable. You want to tell me that non-Jews can't be smart? The Japanese students in the U.S. are doing well. Of course they do. So certainly that is not what we are talking about. The only thing that a Jew has that no one else has is Judaism. Period. That's a thing which if you come and you say, I'm proud of being a Jew because I have something you don't have, and it's called Judaism, so at least that's a logical reason. That's a logical reason. And on the pasuk in Varim, Perek Kavav, this pasuk, Yotlo Lam Zgula, to be unto God, a special people. The Sforno says, what do you mean special people? What's a special people? Kidei sheyasig bachem ma shechafetz lasig min hamin ha'enoshi, so that God can derive through you what He planned from the beginning to derive from the human creature. In other words, the Jew is the purpose of the world. God made man with a capital N. God made the human being for a special reason, that He wanted this human being to achieve something great that no other creature that He had ever made could possibly achieve. Not the animal, and not the angel. The animal is programmed not to know what good is. And the angel is programmed not to know what bad is. An angel can't be bad. He's programmed. He's got to be perfect. He can't do sins. He has no Yetzer Hara. He has no Yetzer Hara. And neither does the animal. He's programmed when he's hungry to kill. You don't blame him. He's programmed so. The only creature in the entire universe that is capable of doing good and doing evil and choosing to do so is the human being. And God wanted to make this magnificent creature who could do evil, and instead, with a conscious choice, said, I'm going to do good. That's greatness. That's greatness. And of all the human beings, the Jew was chosen to be he was chosen to lasig, to achieve that which God wanted from the Min HaEnoshi, from the human creature. Now, universalism is the goal of the Jewish people. But it is achieved not through running around and saying everybody has got to join together, good and bad. It is joined by having a specific people chosen to behave in a specific great and holy way, and to serve as an example to all peoples who say, hey, I want to be like that. And then when people are good, then there is a universalism. But there is nothing specially good about unity with good and bad. In fact, the worst thing imaginable would be one world, which is bad. Because then you wouldn't have any country in which to escape, to practice being good. So certainly, the Jewish goal is one world. One world, but one good world. And that's achieved by having the Jew chosen as an example. Now, a light onto the nations is not the way the Reformed Jews and liberal Jews think that it's a Jew walking on with a flashlight running around the world showing them the way to go. It's living in his own country and building a magnificent society, which is an example and a light onto the nations so that they will copy it and emulate it. That's a light onto the nations. And we'll get back to that in weeks to come. That's why the Jewish people was chosen and separated from the nations. And there are two key words which define the Jewish people: Havdalah and Kedusha. Separation and sanctity. An Am Kadosh, a holy people, a sanctified people, and an Am Muvdal. Ein Am Levadad Yishkon, the Torah says. Woe is a people that shall dwell alone. Uvagoyim lo yitchashav, and is not counted among the various nations. The concept of Havdalah is an essential concept in Judaism. Judaism doesn't integrate. In democracy, everybody's equal. Good, bad, evil, light, darkness, bitter, sweet, everything's equal. Judaism separates, and it gives a value system to something. It says, this is good, and this is bad, and if it is bad, it should not be together with the good. Because evil has no place in this world. And in Breshit, the very, very first thing that God did, the first thing that He did, He made He made light. And then what did He do with it? Vayavdel Elokim ben ha'or u'ben ha'choshen. And He separated the light from the darkness. Vayavdel. He separated it. His first step was not unity. His first step was division. And Rashi brings down, he says, Ra'ahu, he saw the light, told that it was good. Ve'ein na'eh lo v'lachosher sheyu mishtamshim be'iruvia. And it was not good that the light and darkness should both serve together, mixed up together. Dekava lazet chumo bayom. He said, this is your boundary day, and this is your boundary night, and you don't go together. It was the first thing that he did. I remember one of these centrist Orthodox types. Brought down, there's this famous medrash, that why in the second day does it not say Kitov? Every day it says, and God saw Kitov, and so he saw that it was good. The second day it doesn't say it. That's why in the third day it says it twice. So there are various reasons in the Midrash why it wasn't given. Why in the second day it didn't say Kitov, that it was good. And one of them says it was on the second day God divided the waters between the heavens and the earth and so on, and therefore it's not Kitov because the division is not good. Certainly division is not good. If it doesn't serve an absolutely necessary purpose. Absolutely necessary. It serves an absolutely necessary purpose. Of course it's good, and the proof is that God on the first day divided things, and it says, Kitov. Again, the concept of Havdalah of the Jewish people is brought down clearly in Vayikra Perek Chav. In Vayikra Perek Chav, it brings down as follows. Ani Hashem Elokechem, I am the Lord your God. Asher hivdalti eluchem min ha'amim, I have separated you from the nations. V'hivdaltem, and so therefore you too make divisions and make a separation. Vehimat Torah, T'meah, there is a clean animal, an unclean animal, a kosher one, and not kosher. And indeed, the reason why God made in this world laws of divisions is so as to teach us the law of division. Not that logically there's anything especially different between a camel and a cow, really. But the Kadosh Baruch Hu gives in physical terms, in the world of physics, every law of physics gives us a reason, a moral reason. Why is it that it's easier to fall than to jump up? Because in morality too, it's easy to fall and it's hard to climb. There are reasons for these things. And so on. He continues, V'yitem li kedoshim. First he said, you should be separate. And then he says, not just separate for its own sake. Separate so that you should be holy. Ki kadosh ani Hashem. Is I the Lord am also holy. V'avdil etchem min ha'amim liyot li. And I have separated you from the nations to be mine. You're mine and they're not. Chazal, the rabbis tell us, Im atem mudalim mehem, harei atem sheli. If you will be separate from the nations, you will be mine. Im lav, and if you're not going to be separate from them, harei atem shel Nebuchadnezzar l'chaderah. Then you'll end up, if you want to be like all the other nations, fine. You'll end up being punished by those nations that you love, Nebuchadnezzar, Babel, and all the Germans love to be the Germans love Germany. Okay, you want it, take it, enjoy it. If you're separate from them, you'll be mine. You want to be with them? Lots of luck, have it, take it. So in the Mechilta, in Yitro, he says the following. On the Pasuk, which we'll come to later, the Shmot in Yutet. Vatem tiyuli mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh. You should be for me a kingdom of kohanim, of priests, v'goy kadosh, a holy nation. Kra'am goy. He called the Jewish people goy, a people, a nation. Goy means nation. That's what it means. This isn't a pejorative word. He called them goy nation. Then he also said, Atem tiyuli mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh. And he also called them holy. Kadosh. Kedoshim u'mekodashim. Holy and hallowed. What does that mean? What do you mean hallowed and holy? Prushim me'umot ha'olam v'shikutzehim. Separate from the nation of the world and their abominations. That's why the rabbis are honoring members of Kahane. So that's what the Torah really says. That's what the Torah really speaks about. It's Havdalah l'shem kedusha, separation for the sake of being holy. For the sake of being holy. As being separate, the concept of the Jews being chosen, and we are a chosen people. We are chosen, and stop running away from it by saying, well, we're chosen for all the difficult things. We're chosen for difficult things. But we're chosen from the other people. We are chosen. And the choice began, of course, with Avraham Avinu, with Abraham, the first Jew. Perek Yud Zayin. Hakimoti et briti beini uvenecha, and I will establish my covenant between me and between you. Vein zaracha charecha, and with your seed afterwards, after you. Edorotam, all generations. Brit olam, an eternal covenant. There was no New Testament, and there's no Old Testament. There's only a testament. Liot lecha lelokim, to be unto you a God, uzaracha acharecha, and your seed after you. And then natati lecha uzaracha acharecha et eretz migorecha, and I will give unto you and to your seed after you the land where now you are a stranger. It kol eretz Canaan, the entire land. Does not mean therefore that Yishmael also, he says, you and your seed. Right? And the Arabs will often suddenly discover the Tanakh. So say, hey, in your Tanakh it says, to you and your seed. That's only because they don't go past that verse. Still speaking. So God says to Abraham, after Abraham says to him, Lu Yishmael but he says, I'm going to give you a son through Sarah. So Abraham says, gee, thanks, but just, I'll be grateful if Ishmael lives. He's 99 already. He said, I'll be happy if Ishmael lives. So God says, no. Aval Sarah ishtecha nidat lecha ben. She will give birth to a son. V'hakimoti et briti ito lebrit olam, and I will give my covenant to him for an eternal covenant, uzaro acharav, and to his seed after him. Ol Yishmael, and concerning Yishmael, Shmaticha, I heard you. Hinei beirachti oto, I will bless him. Pareti oto, and I will multiply him, and so on. Shnei masal nisiim, he will give birth to 12 chieftains. Ve'toriti, but my covenant, Hakimet Yitzchak, I will make with Isaac. Period. Nikuda. That's it. So that certainly that's the clear answer.
What about Esau?
What?
Esau.
We come to that later. Sure. So we see that the succession is from Abraham to Isaac. That's clear. And indeed, before Abraham died, it says that he gave the children that he had from various from his various maidservants and concubines. He gave them various gifts and so on, but he sent them away. He sent them away so that the land should be, and the covenant should be given to Yitzchak. Vayitain Avram et kol asher lo liYitzchak. V'nei Hashim and the children of the concubines. Natan Avraham matanot. He gave him presents. Vayishalchem me'al Yitzchak beno ve'odenu chai. He sent them away from his son Isaac while he was still alive. So that's a clear. So we see that the treaty is given to Avraham. Now, in Toldot, it is now given to Yitzchak. And he says as follows. There's a famine in the land. And Isaac wants to leave the country. The famine. It's hard to make a living. So he wants to leave. He wants to go back maybe for a couple of years to Egypt, make some money, and come back. So he says, Al terei Mitzrayim, don't go to Egypt. Gur ba'aretz hazot, live in this land. Ve'yeh ima. I'll be with you. My word, I don't mind. I'll be with you. It'll be tough. But I'll be with you. Don't leave. V'hakimoti et hashvua asher nishbati la'Avraham avicha. So now Isaac has it. So now Isaac, of course, has two sons.
That's what I can imagine.
Isaac also has two sons now, Yaakov and Esau. So Yaakov, after he has tricked his brother, he now flees. He's about to flee. So Yitzchak calls him in and he says, "Kel Shakai, God Almighty, shall bless you, and make you multiply. V'yitein lecha et birkat Avraham, and he shall give you the blessing of Abraham. Lecha uzaracha itam, you and your son. Le'ishtecha et eretz recha, so that you shall inherit the land where you live. Asher natan Elohim le'Avraham." So we see Abraham to Isaac to Jacob specifically, and again a second time to make sure. When Yaakov flees and now he's dreaming, he has this incredible dream of a ladder, and he sees the angels going up and down. And he hears God's voice saying to him, and he says, "Ani Hashem, okay, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and ליצחק, הארץ אשר אתה שוכב עליה, the land which you are resting on, לך אתננה ולזרעך, to you and your seeds. And so on. So what we have here now is, this is the promise, the chosen promise, that you are the chosen. After the three fathers, every Jew that was born was a Jew. In other words, there's a chazakah, a presumption. The chazakah is 3 times. God wanted to see, am I going to get 3 good Jews here? Abraham, okay. Yitzchak, good. Yaakov, good. That's a chazakah. From that point on, all the children, all the seed were Jews. When God appeared to Moshe in Mitzrayim, so again he said to him, Emol lebnei Israel, go to the children of Israel, tell them, and so on and so forth. V'lakachti etchem li la'am, I will take them unto me for a people. Hayiti lachem elokim, and I will be for you, oh God. That's the concentrated. That's the eternal covenant at every time. Every treaty, every contract. You have to give. I give you, you give me. What do I get for it? Right. A consideration. What is the consideration? In law, it's called a consideration. What is the consideration? You choose me as your Lord, I make you my people. ידעתם כי אני השם אלוקיכם המוציא אתכם מתחת סבלות מצרים. You'll know. I mean, right now, Moses is talking to you. All right, okay. You'll know that I'm God. How? When I free you. God, he got the Jewish people. He said, prove it to me. Prove it to me. And God proves his being, his existence, only through strength. I'll take you out from Egypt. I'll destroy them, and I'll free you. And that's how you know that I really am God. הבאתי אתכם אל הארץ אשר נשאתי את ידי לתת אותה לאברהם ויצחק ויעקב ונתתי אותה לכם מורשה אני השם. And I will bring you unto the land concerning which I swore, I raised my hand in an oath to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and I will give it to you. So we have this ongoing chosenness. Abraham was chosen, and Isaac was chosen, Jacob was chosen, and now Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, and Israel is Jacob, the children of Israel, the Jewish people. Continues, and finally they come to Har Sinai. They come to Mount Sinai. The covenant is going to be made formalized to all of them. He says the following. God speaks to Moshe and says, Vata na im shamoa tishmu koli. Tell them this, that if you listen to me, to my voice, ushmatem et briti, and you observe my covenant, v'tem li zgula mikol amim, you will be chosen from all the nations. Be special from all the nations. Ki li kol haaretz. They're all mine, and if I decide to make you chosen, I do it because you're all mine, and I choose you. V'atem tiyu li mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh. Be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. And he concludes with the final words to Moshe. Ele hadvarim asher tidaber el bnei Israel. These are the words that you shall speak to them before getting the Torah. Now go down and tell them this. And Rashi adds magnificent 4 words. Lo pachot v'lo yoter. Nothing less and nothing more. Why not? Why not? Why not? Throw in Shabbos. I want you to tell them this. You're going to be an Am Sgula Mamlechet Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh. Because that's the basis of being Jewish. We are not a religion. We are a Mamlechet Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh. We are a holy nation. We're an Am Sgula. We're a special people. We are a people. We are a people. We're a people with a land. And that is the Mizgeret, that is the framework in which one observes Judaism. So that Judaism is not a religion. We are a religio nation. We are a holy nation. Of course, being a nation and not being holy is worthless. It's pointless. It's absurd. It's racist. But in order for us to give adequate and proper, and indeed the only expression to our holiness, it cannot be done when we are mixed together with other peoples. Where some Jewish ethnic groups, so that in America they can speak about a Judeo-Christian culture. There is no Judeo-Christian culture. That's called shatnez. That's an admixture. And a Jew is not allowed to wear shatnez. If you see, he tears it off. He rips it off. So there's a cultural shatnez that we have here. You don't mix it together. So if we know, and that's the first thing that he said, go down now and tell them, don't add anything. I don't want to hear about Shabbos, Kasher, Galat, I don't want to add anything. Just tell them, lo pachot, lo yoter, tell them you are a holy nation, which means you're separate, and you are going to live in your own country, bebidut, in isolation. I don't want to talk about, I don't want you to integrate, amalgamate, confederate. You are going to be separate. You can love the whole world. Love them from afar. Respect them from afar. Live separately, and as much as possible, isolate yourself from, as Rabbi said, Chilta Sehim, from their abominations. In any case, I go on and on and on and on. There are tens of psukim speaking about the chosenness of the Jewish people, their separation into a distinct and separate people in their own country. That's it. That's what the Jewish people is. Yes.
Can you pass on this?
That's why if you think that only the leftists don't like me, well,
No, but that's not, you didn't
you're
say
right.
that. How did they?
You're right. When I talk about the Arabs, I also bring it down from here. So how come they don't see that too? They see
The
it.
Arabs aren't saying that they respect it.
No. When you don't see what I said. When I talk about throwing out the Arabs, I also bring it down from all these psukim and everything else. And still, yeah. Chavivim Yisrael. And the Kibbutz says in Avot that beloved is Israel. Shenikru banim lamakom. They are called children of God. Shenemar, pasuk, banim atem Hashem. It's a pasuk in Varim, Yudal. Banim atem Hashem. You are children of the Lord your God. Chiba yitera nodat lehem. Shenikru banim lamakom. There's a special love for them. Of course, God loves all His children. God loves all human beings. They're His children. But there's a chiba yitera. There's a special, there's an added love for the Jew. that's racism. So be it. So be it. So be it. The Tanchuma says in Bamidbar, Kach bara HaKadosh Baruch Hu et shinim ha'umot. Thus the Almighty made 70 nations, meaning all the various nations. Umikulam lo matzah hana'ah. And none of them gave him pleasure. Elam Yisrael, except from the Jewish people. Umikulam lo ahav ela Yisrael. And of them all, he only really loved Israel. I go on and on and on and on with this too, but we haven't got time to do that. Just know that that is it. The Jewish people became, with every other nation, there was no specific time when a certain people became a nation. If you're, in college, in university, if you take a poli-sci course, so there's always something about how nations were formed. It's a gradual process of evolution. There are families that became clans, and clans became tribes, and then eventually for self-protection, self-defense, so they got together and they appointed some tough guys, some mafia type, and they called him a king, and he was a king, and now he protected them. And so they gave up their freedoms for protection, and that's how nations came. Other theories that it started in areas where there were rivers, long rivers. And people who were upstream, they had it. So there was probably upstream and downstream. So they got together and they worked out treaties and they became a nation. Whatever it is, it's an evolutionary process. But not with the Jewish people. With the Jewish people, there was a specific moment when a bunch of tribes became a nation, an Am Kadosh. And that was at Sinai. At Sinai. It was, in a sense, not a natural, it was an artificial. The Jewish people was told, this moment you are now going to be a nation. That's different. And so, yes?
Except that from Abraham on, it was an evolution to bring us up to the point that we could be a nation. The tests of each stage
first of all,
and the 12 sons.
First of all, until Jacob proved himself, maybe there wouldn't be any nation. It had to be...
Right, it had to go, you had to go through the trials.
In other words, there was a possibility now of being a nation. But only after Jacob was there, okay, that's it. Now there's going to be a nation, and now we are going to go through it. 210 years, and then we can take it there, and so on. So it was a planned parenthood. God said, I'm going to be your father. This is the first planned parenthood in the world. He said, I'm going to be your father, and I'm going to take you, and I will give birth to you at Mount Sinai. Which at that time wasn't a hospital, but... Anyway, so, and in Shmot, there's a great thing. Vayihi bayom shlishi, and on the third day, Yot HaBoker, at dawn, at morning, Vayihi kolot, u'tlakim, thunder and lightning, anan kaved, alahar, a thick cloud descended on the mountain. The kol shofar chazak mo, powerful sound of the shofar, and yecharad kol ha'am asher b'machaneh, and the whole people trembled. Tremendous moment, an incredibly frightening moment, and even better, an even clearer case of what this was given in Varim, in Perek Dalet, where Moses says to the people, and he says, Hashama am kol Eloki daber toch ha'esh kasher shamat ata v'yechi Did any people ever hear God's voice speak to him and live? Did it ever happen that God took people and said, stand here and spoke to them? Ever happened? And he says, Min hashamayim ishmiacha et kolo. From heaven, he let you hear his voice. And here is the essence of Judaism. We do not believe in Judaism because of Moses. Judaism is not a religion of faith. It is a religion of observation. And from that point on, it was faith. In other words, how does a Muslim know that Islam is true? How does he? He's told that the angel Gabriel came one night to Muhammad and gave him the Quran. Now, you take Muhammad's word, or you don't. You take his word. The next morning, Muhammad got up and he said, "Wow, boy, you'll never guess what happened to me last night. The angel Gabriel came and gave me the Quran. Well, if you believe, fine. If you don't believe, no." With Christianity, even according to what they claim, there are X number of people that saw miracles, but very, very small X. I mean, relatively a handful. If you believe there's 1 or 2 or 5 or 10, fine, okay. Judaism was given in a way because God knew that the Jews arrived. Tough people. He knew that if Moses came in from the mountain, he said, "I brought down the law," and nobody saw it. Come on, what do you take me for? What am I, some kind of for Muslim? So he said, every man and every woman and every child and every goat is going to see me. And then tell your children, I was there, I saw it. And let your child say, Zaidi said, Bubbies, they were there. And pass it on to your children. That's why we believe, by observation, and it's handed down, that there was an observation, not by some chosen few, not by some rabbis. There were no rabbis then. Every Jew saw it. That's the basis of Judaism for us. Not that Moses came. We don't trust Moses. Jews don't. Let me see. Prove it to me. That's why it was given as an observation. It's an observation. Key word is kadosh, holy. Sanctity. We really lost that concept of sanctity, of being holy. It's hard to be holy. It really is. It's hard to be, sanctity is a difficult thing. But at the very least, we should try. Knowing that we're not just different from Gentiles, but yet be different in the way you act, in the way you think, in the way you feel. And gradually, a person achieves a sanctity, a sense of sanctity. And a person, it becomes natural for him not to be gus, as they say, not to be crude, or use certain language. It becomes natural for him after a while, if you work at being kadosh. But that's what it is. It's not enough to go through rituals. I mean, there are Orthodox Jews that are really gus ruach, really turf. Curse. It's not the only thing that you should be able to look at a Jew and say, there's something special. I don't know what it is, but there's something special. That's hard. That's very, very difficult. Is that difficult? In Perak Yud Aleph, in Vayikra, He says, Ki ani Hashem Elokechem. I am the Lord your God. Vehitkadishtem. And you shall sanctify yourselves. V'yitem kadoshim. You should be holy. Ki kadosh ani. Because I am holy. V'lo tamu et nafshotechem. Don't defile your souls. No one likes to defile bodies. It was dirty, so you would take a bath, wash your hands. But to defile the soul is much more difficult because we don't even notice. I remember there was a very, very famous book written by Oscar Wilde. Not the most greatest. Nevertheless, it was called Picture of Dorian Gray. The tremendous concept behind it of a real evil guy who had his portrait painted. And it was an interesting portrait. One day he passed by and he seemed to see something had changed in the portrait. And gradually he realized that everything bad that he did was mirrored in the portrait. It became ugly, really ugly. And he could see his soul. And we can't see that because there are no portraits of Dorian Gray. So we have to assume that if you do something, you've stained a very beautiful soul. You twisted it a little bit. We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't do that. Now, luckily, God gives us, there's this big laundromat, and it's called Shuv. And it's a laundromat. And you can take the soul and you can wash it out. That's a good thing. But a lot of people like to sleep in their soiled soap and never change their clothing. Change your clothing and wash it out. That's kedusha. That's kedusha. And that's what the Jew is meant to be, kadosh. And he says, again, Meir, Perek Yud Tet, in Parshat Kedoshim, that there at Kol Adat Bnei Israel, speak unto the entire congregation of Israel. V'amart alehem, and say unto them, Kedoshim to you, be holy, ki kadosh ani Hashem Elokechem, because I am holy. And it is the job of the Jew to emulate God. We have to copy him. We have to get as close to him as is possible. And that's why, in the very, very first lecture, when I spoke about dveikut l'Hashem, cleaving to God, by which we mean we emulate his midot. And as the rabbis say, Mahu rachum, hafata rachum. He is merciful, you be merciful. Hu chanun, just he is gracious, you be gracious. Hu tzaddik, hafata tzaddik. But it doesn't just mean if he's righteous, you be righteous. In the way that he is righteous, that's the way you have to be righteous. You don't make up your own form of being righteous. If he says, this is the way that is called righteousness, then that's the way, even if it doesn't look like that to you. We emulate God. We try, it's like children. You ever see children copying their parents? See them copying their parents? Why do you think God made children like that? Why did God make people suddenly, adults? There's a whole bunch of reasons for that. But one of them is, we should watch that child and see how the child copies us, because that's the way we have to behave. A child looks up to parents until he gets in their room, but when he's a child, parents fall and so on and so on. That's the way we have to behave. Banim atem Hashem. We are children. We are children unto God, and we don't do that. It's forbidden to be holy, And indeed, the reason why the Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us this land, not just stop. You think, and so he came here and took the country away from 7 nations. Now, true that they were losers, I mean, like a bear. So he says in Tehillim, in Torah Kuf Hey, Yitain lehem altzot goyim, and he gave them the lands of the nations. V'amal le'umim v'yirashu, and he inherited the labor of other people. They built the houses, and we sat in them. They planted the vineyards, and we ate from the grapes. Why? Why? For a reason, not just because I want to take it from them. Ba'avur yishmeru chukav, so that they shall observe his statutes. V'torotav yinsohu, and keep his laws. That's not just a nation. We're a nation. We're a holy nation and a special nation. Let's take a break in for 10 minutes and we'll come back until we said earlier that God made the human being as a very special creature, with the ability to be as low as the animals, if not lower, indeed lower, and yet to be Ma'at Ne'elokim, as it says, Tehillim, but a little lower than the angel. It's a tremendous gap. After the Kadosh Baruch Hu brought the Mabul, the flood, so he then said the following: Ki yetzer lev ha'adam ra minurav. The inclination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Not that the heart is evil. We don't believe in original sin, that's absurd. But the inclination is to do evil. Because evil is more fun than good. Let's face it, there's more fun in being bad than in being good. And so the inclination is naturally, pleasure-pain principle. Man runs from pain to pleasure. Babies, take a baby, see something hot, he touches it once, and he won't touch it again. That's the way it is, pleasure-pain. So we run towards fun. So since the inclination is to do evil, because the essence of human beings is the ego. In each person sits a little me. A big I. There's a big I. Me. In each of us there's me. And everything that's evil in this world that we do, if we're normal, we do because I want to get something out of it. No normal person in his life ever robbed a bank because he likes robbing banks. That's not normal. You rob a bank because you want the money. That's normal. That isn't right, but it's normal. Why does he want the money? So that he can enjoy the benefits that money can buy. Nobody does evil for its own sake unless he's sick. But normal people do bad things because to gratify their need. They're on. And the purpose of the mitzvah is not to ever destroy the Yetzer Hara. That's not possible. It's to be mikadesh et hayetzer, to sanctify the inclination. In other words, food, eating, can be a disgusting thing, an animalistic act. With a bracha, you sanctify what otherwise would be an animal act. By not being able, for example, I always give this example. Here's a religious youngster, lives in New York, unfortunately, and he's a baseball fan. And now it's a Sunday, and the Los Angeles Dodgers have now come into town to play the Mets, a doubleheader. He wants to see the Mets. And his mother makes him sandwiches, and his mother knows baseball. She knows 2 games, 18 innings, 9-9, 18 innings. She gives her enough sandwiches for 18 innings. Little does she know that the Dodgers and Mets never play 9-inning games. And so the first game goes 21 innings. First game. And he has finished the sandwiches, and there's still a second game to go. And he has no intention of leaving. But by the 3rd inning, he is hungry. And so is this big fat guy sitting next to him, but he has no problem. The hot dog kid is passing by and he says, "Hey kid, 2." He throws him the money and the kid now passes it back to his dad. And as he gets closer and closer to the kid, now, I'm going to say something. Non-kosher franks smell just as good as kosher. And this tasty. And now it's in his hands, and he's passing it on, and he knows he isn't allowed to eat it. How much is that worth in terms of harnessing and being mikadesh the yetzer? That's what the mitzvah is about. And if a person doesn't do it with a consciousness, 90% of the mitzvah is gone. Wasted. The ability to do without. The ability to tell that me and come on, eat it, it's great, it tastes great. You say, shut up. That's the greatness of mitzvah. That's the greatness of mitzvah. So when he gets home, he can have a kosher plate. The act of eating is not a bad act. It's how you eat it. If you sanctify the act of eating. And that's with anything else. Unlike both the Catholic Church or even more the Eastern faiths that have a tremendous emphasis on giving up things. No sex, or no food, or no this, or no that. That's not the Jewish way. There's a story told about some chassid came to his Rabbi and he said to him, "Rabbi, I decided to be holy. And this last month I've been holy." He said, "Yeah, I've been holy." He said, first of all, he said, "I've eaten only grass. And I've gone out in the snow and I roll naked in the snow in the freezing cold. And I put nails in my shoes and I walk with them." And he says, "Come here." He takes him to the window. He says, "Look down there." He looks down there and he sees a horse. He says, "You see that horse? It only eats grass. It rolls in the snow and it has nails in its shoes." That's not a way of sanctity. The way of sanctity is not to go to either extreme. Not to be a glutton, a hedonist, and not to be some Gandhi type. That's not the way. The way is to challenge the me. He said, "I'll eat, but I'll do it properly, with sanctity. And I'll do everything else which appears to be, like it's an animal, a beastly trait. Not a beastly trait. Not if I sanctify it." And that's why, picture the difference between a little Jewish youngster. All kids get up hungry in the morning. I mean, all kids are hungry when they get up. They'll starve. They'll always starve. So, and when the kid gets up, he's starved. He runs right away, right from the bed to the kitchen, and he eats, drinks, and everything else over there. A religious kid He first has to get up, he first has to wash a certain way and say the bracha. And then he has to put his tzitzit and he says the bracha. And then he has to say a couple of other brachas, and then he says the bracha, and now he can first eat. But he has to make another bracha on the food till he gets there. But do you know what that does to him? What a difference there is between that child and the other child if he does it consciously. If he does it consciously. And that's why it's so important for parents to teach their children. To do the mitzvah and do it, know what you're doing and why you're doing it. That's all the difference in the world between a mitzvah and a ritual. A lot of people do a ritual. That's the way it goes. I mean, yeah, that's what we do. You have to do it as a mitzvah, as a tremendous conscious act. I remember in the yeshiva, in the Meir, I remember hearing it's a really great story. But a father sent his son off to learn in yeshiva in Poland, of course. Poland, yeshiva, it was a shtetl, this was far in the city and so on. It was a long trip, hundreds of kilometers. And kids didn't come home. They would come home Pesach, Shoshana and so on. So after 6 months there, the youngster finally comes back and it's pouring, stormy night. Storm, pouring rain. And he comes in, bangs on the door, and his father opens up the window, the second floor, and he says, "Who's there?" He says, "Me." Go back. If after 6 months in the yeshiva, you still haven't learned that you don't say me and expect everybody to know who it is. If you haven't learned that, you haven't learned anything in yeshiva. Getting rid of the me, sanctifying the me, the I, harnessing it. That's what the mitzvahs are. And that's kedusha. That makes you strength to do it. People come and say, I mean, you fast a whole day? They can't. I mean, a whole day? 25 hours? I mean, 25 hours? The thought is inconceivable to them. They can't do it. They are long since slaves to their Yetzer. And the Jew who doesn't do on Shabbat, doesn't do this, he conquered himself. He's the master of the Yetzer. He's the master. And that's a great thing to be a master. And that's why the rabbis say that on the Yuchot, on the tablets of stone, so it says, Al tekui charut, ela cherut. Don't say charut, which means hewn out of stone, but read freedom. Cherut for freedom. Because there is no ben chorin, there was no free person except one under the law. What appears to be a yoke and which chains you is really freedom. Because if you're not afraid of human beings, and if you've conquered your Yetzer, you are the freest person in the whole world. In the whole world. What a tremendous thing to be free. You have the power to do that which you know you should do and which you have to do. And you do it. You are free. When I went to prison in the States, so the Shabbat before going to prison, I was at a shul in New Rochelle. Nice place to be. And the rabbi was, really, he was really touched by it, and he had a very, very moving sermon. The essence was that book, Kahane, is from the jail. And then he asked me to speak, and I said, a thing which I think that every Jew should hear, and that is, there are people who walk the streets daily. They walk the streets every day, wherever they want to go. And they're in prison. Because they know what they should do and they're afraid to do it and they can't do it and they're serving life sentences. And there are people who are inside prisons. They did what they should do and they didn't care. And they're always free. And that's for the Jew. A Jew can never be in prison. Never, ever. He's not afraid. He does what has to be done. He's free. No one can do anything to him. Nothing. You can't touch him. He's free. The worst you do is kill him. So, if he's not afraid of that, what do you do? He's free. He's untouchable. So the whole purpose of Kedusha, sanctity, is this very special ability to sanctify your Yetzer, to take the inclination and harness it and make it do what you want. If you can reach that point, that is Kedusha, and you're a special creature, a special creation. That's Kedusha. Any questions on this whole thing? No? No questions? No questions?
I do, meaning that I think it's Abraham that sends his other sons away.
Yes.
And just Isaac, so he should inherit the land.
Good
Now
luck,
his
sheep.
son, God gave him the land, gave him the land.
If they were there and he sent them away, they would always challenge him. I'm a son too. I'm a son also. I don't know what kind of a, sort of covenant, I don't know. I'm here too. So he made sure to take presents, and take gifts, and take this, and transfer yourself. Seriously. If they're in there with you, then I'm interested in any covenant. I'm here. I'm his son too. So he made it. He said, "Are you my children? And I love you. Take the money and run." That's yes.
So you can say that that's the forerunner of Am Godel Yishkon.
Yes. Certainly so. Certainly so. There is no question that the other reason is what David just said. We'll speak, Baruch Hashem, next week about the concept of the Jew and why Judaism is the only land-centered faith in the world. There's a land, in other words, it's a mitzvah to live in one specific land. And obviously, the reason is so that we shouldn't be influenced by the outside cultures. And that's exactly what this was. Not only if these people stayed, if his other children stayed, not only would there be a challenge to Isaac's title to them, but they'd influence him too. And that's the way. And we have to be separate. We are isolationists. You can love every person in the world and really love them, but love me and leave me. I'll write you nice letters and I'll send you care packages. But in my country, I have to be alone so that I can create a specific, unique Torah society which is different, and I can't risk having it messed up.
Okay, well, how then did Abraham, was his children that were brought up in his household?
God saw already that Ishmael wasn't that. I mean, it's quite true that if Ishmael would have been perhaps good, then he would have shared it. Certainly. But he saw that he was not good.
So in other words, God told him to say.
God told him to, yes. Yes.
The central purpose of Zionism
Which Zionism? Political Zionism. Or real Zionism.
I'd rather not be too specific.
Because, you see, words have certain meaning. Today, if you use the word Zionism, stam kacha, it has a tendency to, hurt so and so and so forth. Now, to me, that's not to me. I'm a Zionist. This is Zionist.
Let me go on my question.
Okay. I don't want to tear it apart. I don't want to.
Tear me apart.
No.
The normalization is a central idea of political Zionism.
Right, that's
The
right.
normalization, if you look at it, is to make Goyim out of Jews.
Absolutely right. Exactly.
So I asked you, last week you said you were a Zionist. How can you justify that?
Why should I let Herzl take away a beautiful term? The original term wasn't Herzl.
It came in after Herzl, by the way.
What's the difference when it came? I don't care when it came in 1897 or 1907, or it was probably earlier because Nathan Birnbaum was the original. And it was early.
around 1908 or 1909.
Yeah, whatever. I think it was earlier yet. That's not the point. The point is that, don't get about that. This is Zionism. V'techazena eineinu b'shuvcha l'tzion. Your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather said that before Nathan Birnbaum or Herzl, or in fact Herzl's great-great-great-great-grandparents said it. I'm not going to let anybody take away from me a basic Jewish concept. Theirs is a political Zionism. Theirs is a perverted Zionism. But I'm not going to give up being a Zionist. I'm a Zionist. My grandfather was, my great-grandfather was, Abraham was a Zionist. Because of Ben Gurion, I'm going to talk about it. He's not going to take away my thing from me. I take it back. That's what I'm talking about. People don't. Let me tell you a story. Quick story. Everyone. There was a rabbi out in Delray Beach, Florida. Rabbi Silver, Sam Silver. He's known as marrying Sam. He marries anybody, anything, man, Jew, Christian, cats, goats, anything. But he used to be rabbi out in Stamford, in Connecticut, and he had this this juk in his head that he wanted to debate. I don't want to debate because he's such a loser. But anyway, he kept on calling me, writing me. So, all right, so we had a debate in his temple. I figured that'll even out a little. I mean, in the end, at the summing up, a great little story tells. He says, let me tell you the difference between me and Rabbi Kahane. Once upon a time, the Chicago Bears had a Jewish quarterback named Sid Luckman. Sid Luckman was an East Side boy. He became a quarterback, which, Jews usually don't become quarterbacks for, professional football teams. And his father was an old tailor on the Lower East Side who didn't know football from earball. Sid Luckman came into New York to play the Giants at the Polo Grounds. He bought his father a ticket on the 50-yard line. And the father's sitting there and he sees Sid takes the ball and tackles him. Crushes him. 4 or 5 times in the game, Luckman is sacked. Finally, the game's over. Luckman is sitting in the dressing room, tying boots and so on. And his father runs and he says, Sidney, give him the ball. So, Silver says, that's the difference between Rabbi Kahane and me. I give him the ball. He doesn't want to give him the ball. No one takes Zionism away from me. I have the original and I keep it. That was given to me by my father, by his father from Mount Sinai. You think that I'm going to let them take it, mess it up, and pervert